Hey y'all. So today I am currently in the chapel in the woods at the shrine of Maria Stein. And the shrine is located in the town of Maria Stein on the west side of the state of Ohio. It's a little bit north, or I say a little bit, it's north of Dayton, kind of in between there and Toledo, and really in God's country. It's in farmland, and you can really smell it on certain times of the year, I'm sure. But it's so beautiful, peaceful here. So I wanted to record in here because I'm a little bit away from everything. And I was going to try and do this in the actual chapel at the shrine, but it's a pretty small chapel and I didn't want to disturb people while they're praying. And I'll do some cutaway scenes as I'm talking. So, just a little bit about the shrine and about this area and how this all came to be. So, Maria Stein means Our Lady of the Rock in German. So, Stein, stone. So, Our Lady of Stone or Our Lady of the Rock. And then Maria, obviously Mary. And this was founded by the Order of the Most Precious Blood, the Sisters of the Most Precious Blood. They have a wonderful biography and history of all this, so I'm going to just kind of condense all this as much as possible and give you the cliff notes. So back in the early 1800s, there was a woman, Maria, I believe it's pronounced Brunner. It could be Brunner. I'm going to say Brunner. And she was a widow, a mother, and was serving. She felt like she was called to do something more, went to Rome on pilgrimage, and heard the story of this order of the most precious blood. And so after feeling called to that, she went back home, began doing a lot of work with the poor and with everyone, and wanted to be out there and be a missionary. And so her son kind of took that mantle on, and again, very long story short, was brought into the Order of the Most Precious Blood and then was assigned to go to America in the 1840s. So fast forward to the 1840s, he comes to this area in Ohio to help serve the growing German population. Also, they were from Switzerland, so but Germany, Switzerland are pretty close together, and so I'm sure they knew each other fairly well. So he got right to work with a bunch of sisters and religious and priests to help with the growing population here in Ohio, the western part of Ohio, in the 1840s. And the sisters did a lot of amazing things. And you can go into, they have a wonderful museum that tells you about their history of the order, history of the people that came here, and then also all the work that they did. And some of the key things that I really, really liked in the museum, first was they had the chest of, or a trunk, what all the missionaries had to bring. And basically they had to put their entire life in that trunk. And I just thought, and it was their little plaque there, and it said, imagine if you had to travel 2,000 miles away from your home and knowing that you'll probably never get to go home again. And that's, you have to pack your entire life into that one trunk. What would you bring? And that was just kind of an eye-opening experience, especially right now for me trying to move and realizing I'm probably going to have two huge pods worth of stuff, and here they are coming with one little trunk, little chest, if you will. So that was pretty just unbelievable what our ancestors sacrificed back in the day. The second was there was a whole area basically of all the skills and all the things that the sisters started doing here. Whether it was, I thought it was really cool, they had a station where they showed how they made Eucharistic hosts. And that was really cool to see how they would make the process of making the hosts and the beautiful designs within the hosts. They also would do sewing, crochet, and just really delicate, beautiful pieces of work, investments. And they would do shoemaking, carpentry, farming, obviously. And and then one of my other favorite things in the museum was the Eucharistic monstrance that it was in there. And this monstrance was, they had this in the 1860s. I think it's at 1863, if I'm not mistaken. And this monstrance, oh my gosh, I was like, why don't we make monstrances like this? Why can't we make monstrances the way these used to be? And because the order of the most precious blood had a huge devotion, obviously, to the most sacred heart of Jesus and the precious blood of Christ, but they also had a huge devotion to adoration, Eucharistic adoration. Especially, you got to remember, Eucharistic adoration is not something, this is kind of a quote unquote new thing in the church. I mean, given the 2,000-year history, it's new relative to the history of the whole church. And so for them to be having to have it be a core principle within the life of the sisters to do holy hours, to have Eucharistic adoration, was kind of, I don't want to say novel, but something that wasn't commonplace, I'll say, back in the day. Okay, so then after visiting that area, there's 3 floors to the main shrine convent. It used to be the convent, and then now it's turned into the shrine. And so that the museum and stuff is on the 2nd floor. The 3rd floor is what they call the upper room, and they have like a little bake shop. It's called the Brunner Bake Shop, and they have a gathering space called the upper room. And that probably could hold, I saw what I counted was around 80 chairs and tables, or 10 tables for 8 chairs. You can fit about 80, but I'm sure you could probably fit about 100 people. So I would highly, highly recommend, if you have a group, you can easily do a retreat here. In fact, they started doing retreats back as early as the 1960s. And so I believe they have a retreat house here. It's a large grounds here. So anyways, I'll get to that in just a second. So you have that area up there. So if you want to stay here for multiple days with a group and serve meals and whatever, they've got that covered. And then down on the main floor is the gift shop, which is really nice. And shout out to the workers there at the gift shop. So friendly, so helpful, very nice to talk to, and very servant heart, which is beautiful to see. And then you walk in, and then you see what's known as the Adoration Chapel. Again, like I said, adoration is the cornerstone of this, and so they do Eucharistic adoration throughout the week, and you certainly can come for that. But the chapel is beautiful, and it's kind of simple. They did a renovation in 2002 when I was reading, and so they found that rosewood glass stained window in the back of the main church, and then the main altarpiece. And really the one ornate decorative thing that they have is on the top ceiling, and that is Our Lady of Consolation, I believe. I could be mistaken, but I believe that's what I read. But the other people that are in the image is Pope Pius V and a knight, and that is when Pope Pius V called upon Our Lady and the Christians to save Europe from the Muslims invading in the Battle of Lepanto, which was a very famous battle where the tides were against the Christians, and then thankfully at the last minute, through the intercession of Our Lady, and the soldiers were able to defend and save Europe. And then you have Saint Teresa of Avila also in that painting, and she's one of the patronesses of the most sacred, or the most precious blood of Jesus, for the sisters, and so that's why she was painted up there. And then when you turn a right, you'll make a right, and then from there you will see the relic chapel. And oh my goodness, this chapel is amazing. Now, thankfully, unlike St. Anthony's Chapel that I did a video of, I was able to take pictures in this chapel. And I can't do it justice on camera, but if you ever have a chance to come, please come. There are over 1,200 relics in this tiny chapel. And like I said, you could probably fit, I think there's like 30 pew spots, and then maybe you could squeeze 50 people in there, but it would be really tight. And so it's just this very small, beautiful, peaceful place. And so like I said, over 1,200 relics, and from all over the place. They do have a binder there that'll tell you the history, a little bit of the chapel, of the relics, and then they have them categorized in alphabetical order. So if you're looking for a specific saint, you can certainly look through the binder and find that saint. Now, how did they come to all these relics? So I think, as I mentioned again, the St. Anthony's Chapel in Pittsburgh is the largest church, that the holder of relics anywhere in the world outside of the Vatican. The second most is here at Maria Stein Relic Shrine. So if you can't make it to Pittsburgh, come to here and you'll still be blown away. Now, how did they get all these relics? First is a lot of them came from the priest, the missionary priest that came here, Father Brunner, who came to Ohio. And he was a kind of connoisseur. He gathered a lot of relics himself, but a lot of priests and a lot of dioceses and churches in Europe in the 1800s were afraid, because of all the wars and conflicts that were happening during that time, that their treasures, i.e. the relics, were going to be burned or destroyed. And so they wanted to preserve and safeguard them. And they knew the safest place at the time was over in America. And so they started giving Father Brunner and other missionaries, they started giving them their relics so that way they would be safe when they came over here. And so I think he brought over somewhere between 400 and 600 relics during his time as a missionary here in America. And then over the course of obviously 100 plus years, 150 plus years now, more and more relics have been gathered and placed here at the shrine. So when you go into the reliquary shrine, chapel, whatever you want to call it, you'll see from every corner there's going to be relics everywhere. And I think in the journal it said about 95% of the relics that are in there are first class relics, which is awesome. And if you don't remember, a first class relic is actually a piece of bone or a part of the body of that saint. A second class relic is something that they owned, whether it's a stole or a cassock or a habit or a prayer book or something that they owned and used every day. And then third class relics are those that have been blessed by the saint, whether through the first class relic or if they were a priest or a bishop and they could bless an item, a religious item, that could be a third class. So the vast majority there are first class relics. The other really beautiful thing that's in there that's really unique to the chapel is on the left side of the doors, you'll see this oil painting. And it's very well believed that this oil painting was gifted to Father Brunner to bring to Maria Stein because it's a depiction of Maria Stein, Our Lady of the Rock, Our Lady of the Stone, and had many miracles attributed to Our Lady of the Rock. And this painting was oil painted and it's preserved to this day. So again, this painting has been around here in Ohio since the 1842, 1844, somewhere around there. And it's still here today. And it's gorgeous. Now, I could spend the next hour plus trying to go list you off all of the saints, all the 1,200 relics there, but I'm not. I would just kind of focus on two that they mention are highlighted here in the chapel. And the first one is the splinters of the true cross, of the Holy Cross. And that you'll see is in the right above the tabernacle in the main center part of the altar in the chapel. And the second thing is to the right is the relics of, in the body, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it was the body of Saint Victoria in the right. And you'll see her hand is kind of oddly shaped. And at first I'm like, why is her hand that way? Is there some significance? And the reason I read in the book is basically she was of nobility, and martyrs are seen as the noble men and women in the church because they were closest to Christ, because they gave up their lives for Christ in the church. And so that hand of nobility, or people back in the day, if you were a king or queen, if they died, or they would place their hand that way. So the Christians adopted that and put in their martyrs' hands in that shape. And so that's why our hand is in that configuration or that form, which I thought was pretty interesting. So other than that, I would say also there's an outdoor area where they have kind of a trail for various saints here on the grounds just behind the shrine. And then there's a little trail that kind of veers off, and they have it labeled very well. It's the Our Lady in the Woods chapel, which is this one, and it depicts Our Lady and Saint Bernadette. I know it's a lot of focus right now, but trust me, it's Our Lady of Lourdes and Saint Bernadette right there. And then just below, depicted in the altar, is Purgatory, and Our Lady coming to comfort those that are in purgatory, and the angels coming to give a little reprieve with the the chalice, kind of soothing their pangs of purgatory, because those that die in God's grace, but still have the punishment due to their sins. So think of, if you've ever been grounded by your parents when you were a kid and you said, "I'm so sorry, mom and dad," and your parents forgave you because they love you no matter what, right? But you're still grounded. You still have to serve the punishment due to what you did. And it doesn't take away their love from you or that their mercy. They may even, shrink, because maybe if you confess to them and you say, "Listen, it was me. I'm so sorry. Please have mercy on me, mom and dad." They could come back and say, "Okay, well, we were going to ground you for 2 weeks, but we're only going to ground you for 1 week because you told us the truth." It's kind of not a perfect analogy, but it's similar to, how we are when we go to confession. God completely forgives us and he loves us. And he says, "Oh, I'm so glad you're back, my prodigal son," and embraces us and loves us. But nothing unclean shall enter to heaven. And we understand that God is a loving and merciful God, but he's also just. And because of his just, it's just to serve out that punishment. Now, we can reduce that if we offer up things here on earth, right? If we are finding ways of spiritual acts of mercy, corporal works of mercy, and spiritual works of mercy, that can help alleviate some of that. But there's a chance that we may need some purgation to purify or refine our souls so that we are perfect when we get to be in the beatific vision, God willing, with God. And purgatory is not some place that's just, it's a waiting room and it's just nothing's going to happen. No, it's a purging, it's fire. And that's what this is depicting here. And this is why on November 2nd, every year, we have the celebration of All Souls Day. And we pray and we try to fast and give up a little something for those souls. And we make sure our intentions are purposely directed to the souls in purgatory so that, God willing, they can be with God in heaven and they can intercede for us here on earth as a church militant and realize, one day it could be us in purgatory. And, God willing, we'd have people interceding for us and praying for us so we can be with God in heaven sooner. So that's what that is, just a little bit about that. Okay, so really the remainder is there's a huge grounds. Like I said, plenty of walking areas. I think there's a retreat house, like I said. They also have some awesome playground areas. So if you have families, even with small kids, please come to the shrine because they've got playgrounds and running areas. They even have it looks like a disc golf, frisbee golf course here on the backside and on the land. So, again, if you want to spend a weekend here, you can totally do that. And I would highly, highly recommend, if you're ever needing a place to go on pilgrimage or just to visit with your family or with your parish group, highly consider coming here to the Shrine of Maria Stein here in Maria Stein, Ohio. All right, so that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if there's any prayer intentions you have, please leave them down in the comments below. And when I go to my next pilgrimage, my next shrine, I will keep those in my prayer intentions. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. God bless.